I always wanted to build a lamp, but I had no real idea, and now I had. Make a quick sketch what's in my head and let's go. First I use my pencil and ruler to measure the right distance to cut my board. Then I use clamps to hold this piece of wood that acts as a guideline for the saw. I just borrowed this saw from a neighbor, and it's also the first time I'm using this kind of tool. But it went quite good, I think. I used the same technique as before, to cut some squares from the sliced wood. I was measuring the distance from my saw blade to the edge of the saw and added the dimensions my final piece should be. And this is where I always put a mark on the wood. Now I cut them all and find the center of every piece. Here you can see I made one piece more than I needed, but it was only to select the 4 best. And now I pre-drilled them all. This way my hole saw has a guideline, and every piece is the same in the end. I'm using a hole saw that fits the measurements of my socket for the lamp. And I also use these 2 clamps to hold the piece in place while I'm drilling the hole. This kind of hole saw don't have that much depth, and this is why I came up with the idea to use smaller pieces and just glue them together later. All holes drilled now, and a final check if my socket will fit in there. Now it's time to glue them together. I just used ordinary wood glue for this. I removed the excess glue and then clamped them together. Then I just needed to wait for the glue to dry, and I could unpack my final glued up piece. Then I started sanding the piece, and I started with 8 grit sandpaper and slowly moved up to 240 grit. I wanted the surface to be as flat as possible and as smooth as possible. And here you can also see that I put every piece in another direction while gluing up. And this way I got a little pattern. The final sanding with 240 grit I'm doing by hand because I thought I have more control. Now it just needed a little hole for my cable to come through. And I just covered it with some adhesive tape. And this way the drilled hole will be very nice and clean. Now a little satisfying moment for me. So now that it all is smooth, I can finally add the first coat of color. I had a feeling I was standing 2 hours in that store to choose the right color. And I came home with this walnut color. And I still think it's a little bit too dark, maybe. What do you think? I let the color dry for a little while and then again sanded it. And this time I'm only using a very fine sandpaper so that it don't take off too much of the first coating. Then I added the second coat, and after some more time to let it dry, it's already time to assemble everything. First I added the cable and then connected the cable to the socket. It was very comfortable to make because the socket was just a click system, so very fast and easy. I bought this little piece of felt and just cut it to size. It will close the bottom of my lamp. When I started building, I was a little unsure if maybe the lamp will fall over or something like that. But the center of gravity was very down at the bottom, so it stands really great. All work done, and now I can finally proudly present my homemade lamp. What do you think I could have made better?